Gather around and let me tell you a little story. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Little Red Riding Hood. Whenever she ducked, she would flash her underwear. One day, there was a zombie apocalypse, so she got her machine gun and started tearing through the undead with bullets as she made her way to her grandmother's house. Unfortunately, when she arrived, Granny was a zombie too, so Little Red was forced to put her down. That's when she meets a boy named Momotaro, otherwise known as the Peach Boy from Japanese folklore. He tells her that a zombie plague has invaded Japan as well, so they team up to slaughter zombies together through Fairy Tale Land and figure out what's going on. Does this story sound a bit strange? Well, that's because it's not Little Red Riding Hood. It's Little Red Riding Hood Zombie BBQ. This is a rail shooter for the Nintendo DS, which probably isn't the first genre of games when you think of the handheld system. Despite the wacky premise and very anime designs of the characters, this game was not made in Japan. It was actually made by a Spanish-based development team called Enjoy Up. Before you begin, you're given the choice to play as either Red or Momotaro. Both characters play pretty much the same. The only major difference is that Momotaro has a ninja-flavored coat of paint, and it doesn't really affect the story either. But you're probably here for the novelty of a gun-wielding Red Riding Hood anyways. As expected from a rail shooter, your character will automatically move ahead as enemies advance towards them. You can also avoid attacks and other hazards by moving across the bottom of the screen. There are 21 levels in total, and each stage is themed around a specific fairy tale. In order to survive, you'll have a variety of weapons at your disposal. Your default weapon is the machine gun, which you tap and hold the touchscreen to fire, and release in order to reload. You can also find ammo for other weapons, such as the shotgun and flamethrower, by breaking boxes. Another thing you can shoot is cats and fish that occasionally run across the screen, which will restore some health. This is very important, because you'll definitely be needing it, and that's because this game is quite tough. In fact, the first time I played it, I got my ass handed to me on the very first level. While it does get a bit better as you play more and become more accustomed to how things work, it still isn't exactly a walk in the park. Well, unless your typical walk in the park includes flesh-hungry zombies, I guess. But the game's difficulty is the kind that's more motivating than frustrating. Each time I died, I was ready to get right back up and try again. In order to succeed, you'll need quick reflexes, strong hand-eye coordination, nimble thinking, and some good old-fashioned trial and error. A bit of luck wouldn't hurt either. Which makes it all the more satisfying when you finally get to the end of a level. The graphics in this game are gruesomely colorful, which is appropriate for a zombie game set in the land of fairy tales. The 3D graphics in each stage are also very distinct, which makes them all unique and feel appropriate for their themes. The sprite animations for the player characters are great as well. I especially like the animation of Red throwing off her cloak at the beginning of each level. Of course, even though the game's concept is very wacky, there's also some fittingly messed up imagery, which is to be expected, seeing as how it turns beloved fairy tale characters into terrifying zombies. Not only does Red's beloved grandmother try to kill her, but Red's friend Gretel ate Hansel and is now using his severed leg as a weapon. She also ate the witch, but no one liked that bitch. And then there's Sleeping Beauty, who is scantily clad and voluptuous, but it's a bit ruined by the fact that she's also holding the severed head of who is presumably her prince. There's also the whole rotting undead corpse thing that puts a damper on her attractiveness, but then again, I'm sure that's not a problem for certain people out there. While the 3D graphics look great on the DS, it also leads to some problems during gameplay. When there are a lot of objects on the screen, which is pretty frequently, the game will lag to a crawl. I understand that's kind of a given with the hardware limitations, but in a fast-paced game like this, it's pretty noticeable and distracting. However, that's the only real technical issue I encountered. On another note, I noticed a few English errors in the text, such as "you seen what just happened here" and "you just hear that." In fact, on the main menu, what I assume is supposed to read story is labeled history. These errors don't detract from the enjoyment of the game, but it was just something I happened to notice as I played. There was one exchange I thought was pretty funny though. "This just keeps getting better. I'm dying in the cold. These zombies are already dead and cold, yet they're still coming after us. Well, why don't you warm up by moving your ass?" Little Red Riding Hood Zombie BBQ admittedly isn't the most original of ideas. Fucked up fairy tales are pretty much a genre all on its own. Hell, this isn't even the first time we've seen a gun-loving Red Riding Hood in a video game. But the presentation is great, and it is definitely a unique experience for the DS. And of course, it's also lots of fun. And if you like weird and wacky games as much as I do, then this one is definitely worth a try. Thanks so much for watching! If you enjoyed the video, be sure to click like and subscribe if you want to see more.